Hey guys, in this video I am comparing a $1,098 Zeiss 24mm f1.8 lens to a lens that costs 1/3 of the price. This is the Sigma 30mm f1.4. Both are very close in size. In fact, let's take a closer look at each of these lenses before we step into the comparison. So here they are side by side. Both of these lenses are made in Japan, so they feel very nice and premium in the hand. The Zeiss on the right is about maybe a centimeter, a little bit less than that, shorter than the Sigma lens. Around the front, you can see that the front lens element on the Sigma is slightly larger than that on the Zeiss. You can also tell that the coating is very different. It's more green versus purple. Around the back, both of these lenses are APS-C lenses. They are both E-mount. They have electronic connections because you can obviously use autofocus on your cameras. They fully support autofocus. As far as weight, both weigh about the same. Here is what the Zeiss looks like mounted on my A6000. And here is the Sigma mounted on my A6000. Now I know that both of these lenses are very sharp. If I had to guess which one will win this comparison, I think the Zeiss will edge the Sigma, but that's the whole idea behind this. So what I did is I went out and I took sample photos using my A6500, a tripod, 2-second delay, and here's what I got. I'm going to start out with a shot of both lenses wide open, the Zeiss on the left and the Sigma on the right. And you can tell, let me put these over one another. Here's the Zeiss and here's the Sigma. Obviously the tripod did not move in this photo, but just to give you a difference between 24 and 30 and the resulting bokeh in the background. So there's a bit more compression, as you can tell with a 30mm. But anyway, let's take a look at center sharpness. So I'm going to zoom in. This is my wife and her friend. So zoom into my wife's face and see. Wide open on the Sigma, there's a bit of chromatic aberration, but there's a tiny bit with the Zeiss as well. I think that the Sigma looks a little bit better to me. Go out to the detail and then move over. Yeah, pretty close, but I still think that the Sigma is slightly better. You can see the hair detail even here. Taking a look at the background bokeh. That is quite a significant difference there. Both are decently good images. It just depends on what you're looking for, whether you're looking for something that's a little bit more wide angle or something that can be used as a portrait. So the next shot here, both are done at f2, same settings. And let's again take a look at center sharpness. So, okay, interesting. Immediately you could see the hair detail much better with the Sigma, so there's a bit more sharpness. What's interesting is the colors on both of these are about the same. You know, the Zeiss is praised for its colors, but I think that the Sigma has really good colors as well. Moving over to her friend, a little bit out of focus here and pretty tack sharp, especially on the glasses with the Sigma lens. So I'd have to give this one to the Sigma. Now you notice that this shot looks very similar because I did move the tripod. Now this is the difference between using a wide angle lens for portraits and using one that's zoomed in a little bit more. So you see more of the background even though your subject is the same size, whereas you see less of the background with the same size subject. So that's 24 versus 30, just moving the tripod forward and back. So I wanted to see what happens with flare. Flare control on the Sigma looks a little bit better. This is done at f2, so wide open, neither lens is going to be amazing. Now, chromatic aberration is another thing that you'll notice in this picture. A ton of it with the Zeiss, and you get a little bit there with the Sigma, a little bit more here. You see it right there with the leaves, but there's a ton with that Zeiss. So both lenses suffer from chromatic aberration, and you can see around the edges, there it is there it is on the Zeiss. Neither one really excelling in that area, and looking at that corner, Sigma is significantly sharper there. I don't know why the Zeiss is so soft. Let's take a look at this corner. Same story, chromatic aberration and a bit softer. and more of the same. So really the Sigma is putting up a very good fight. I'd say out of the first 3 shots, it's the better lens out of the 2. Next shot here is of a building and some parking on a street. Now these are done at f8, so we should see which one is just sharper overall for landscapes. Obviously the focal length makes it difficult to compare objects in the correct position in the frame, but looking at the color and the detail of the rail here, you can see that it's a bit softer, fuzzier here, where it's pretty nice and sharp on the Sigma. Going up to the trees, again, significantly sharper here, a bit more soft on the Zeiss, and that is a surprise for sure. Let's take a look at the edge. Again, softer. This looks much nicer on a contrasty background. That's pretty significant right there. Yeah, so win goes to the Sigma. Here's another landscape done at f8. Just a whole bunch of detail in trees and leaves, and up against a bright backdrop should create for some fun. Again, Zeiss softer. Sigma is just nice and sharp all throughout the frame. This lens, it really does impress me when you compare it side by side to something like a Zeiss. Super sharp there. A little bit of chromatic aberration even at f8, but it's not terrible. This is softer. This is softer. Yeah. Don't know what else to say about it. The Sigma is the clear winner here as well. First shot with the 24, and then this is shot with the Sigma where I moved back with the tripod to try to compensate. You could see more of the background is seen in this frame, less of it is seen in this one. So this one is more ideal for portraits. But let's take a look at sharpness, and where I'd like to go straight to the eyes. And I'm going to give this one to the Sigma. Sharper here, look at the eye. Especially this one is noticeably sharper. Look out the hair detail. Yeah, you can see all of the tiny little strands here. It's a bit softer on the Zeiss. Very, very interesting, and just for fun, bokeh, a little bit creamier here, f1.7. All right, so that is it for these sample photos. I am super duper surprised by the results. I was expecting the Zeiss to be the better lens, honestly. I was expecting it cost 3 times the price. I was expecting it to be the better lens. But after this comparison, I think I will be selling this thing. So if you guys are in the market for a used Zeiss, send me an email, let me know. The Sigma really surprised me on this one. Now, this is a lens that I purchased back when it was released brand new, and I was impressed with it then. And recently, Sigma released a firmware update, and in fact, I did upgrade the firmware on this lens to version 1.02 or 1.03, whatever the latest one is. It took about 1 minute to do, and the result is pretty staggering. The autofocus is much more accurate, very snappy now. I think it is a much more usable lens, and in fact, I am contemplating replacing my Sony 35 with this thing, just because I know it's a sharper lens, but the only thing that was holding me back was the optical stabilization, which, because I have an A6500, I don't really need a lens with OSS. So anyway, this thing is amazing. You can clearly tell that it is sharper than the Zeiss in the comparison shots, and that's surprising for a lens that only costs $320, $330. Sigma is just doing an amazing job with their lenses. Optically, they are far superior than almost any other brand out there. The Sigma 16mm is awesome. This 30mm after the firmware update is very, very, very good. So I highly recommend this lens. I know that a lot of you guys already own this thing, but for those of you who don't and you're interested in upgrading your kit lens, or really just getting a good all-purpose portrait, street, landscape lens, check this thing out. I will post a link down below. Now, undoubtedly, there will be Zeiss fans down in the comments saying that I somehow messed up this comparison, and I tried my best. I used one tripod, I used one camera, used manual settings, 2-second timer delay to eliminate any shake. So this is as fair of a real world comparison as I can give you guys, and sometimes the results are surprising. Now there are many channels out on YouTube that will just push Zeiss because it's Zeiss, it's the best, you pay more, you get more. But in some cases, you get more by paying less. The Sigma is just the better all-around lens. There's no debating that looking at the side-by-side. So save some money, save $800, that's a lot of money, and go with the Sigma. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of this comparison. Was the result surprising? Did you expect it to happen? Always interested in reading what you guys have to say. Also, if you have any ideas for future videos, be sure to comment down below as well. As always, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all of your likes, comments, and support, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.